Hey,
Let's go.
okay, I call the August 9th meeting of the Sustainability Committee to order. We'll do a roll call. See who's here. Let's go. John Durant,
I am here.
Steve Douglas,
Here.
Melissa Gavin,
Here.
Aaron Linus, and Michael Pomykowski is here. All right. Let's see here. Our agenda is pretty much the same as last time. We're gonna try to get through some stuff. Let's do public comment. Anybody have any public comment? Anyone online, Brian?
Nope.
No emails, hearing no public comment. We will move on to general business. Do we have any committee member report outs and or updates?
I don't think I have anything that's not on the agenda.
I do
I
not.
just have, oh, John, did you want to go?
Nope, I don't have anything.
This is, Jay kind of had mentioned something about how now that COVID's over, doing this meeting all via Zoom is like not legal any longer or something. But all that it kind of really sounded like was that Brian might have to be at the building in case anybody showed up to physically be at a meeting. So I was just kind of wondering how everybody sort of felt about that, or do we want mostly Zoom, or like what are we thinking?
I think we think mostly Zoom. I don't want Brian to have to go and sit in the parking lot or open up the building. That's Steve's opinion.
Well, the thing is, though, is that if it's state statute, Brian's gonna have to be at the building anyway. It's in case a member of the public walks in and doesn't have access to Zoom. That's
So it
the whole,
sounds okay. So it sounds like Brian's got to be potentially, according to what we learned from Jay, Brian has to be there no matter what. The question
yeah,
is, do we come in?
that's the whole thing is like, because we sort of had a finance meeting the other night and like two of us went to the building because I think we both kind of thought that because the way that it read was like the meeting thing, the finance thing was that this meeting will be held at the office, but the public can attend via Zoom, but half of the committee attended via Zoom. And it was
including Jay.
yeah, Jay was also and that was shocking. I was just like, okay, well, so that's why I was just kind of like floating it like if Brian's up at the building. I mean, I guess my question is, do we want to start trying to meet back in person, or do we want to continue to meet like this with whoever goes to the building goes to the building? Because it didn't sound like that was illegal what happened with finance the other night. If
At least nobody said anything.
yeah, like nobody said anything that like we all should be in person next month or anything like that.
So just to clarify, Michael, we have to have an on-site presence. That's some sort of statute thing.
That's just what Brian sort of told me. Is that correct, Brian?
Well, Jay brought the question forward during one of our more recent village staff meetings, and stated that he felt that since the Dane County health advisory on COVID had been lifted, or the emergency warnings or whatnot had been lifted, that meant that regular standing committees of the village should resume meeting in person, or at least have at the very least the presence of an in-person meeting in the village hall in the event, like Michael stated, that somebody wants to come in and attend in person or doesn't have the capabilities of tuning in virtually.
So the question, as I hear it, is, first of all, I think there is still maybe even a question about whether that's true, right? Like we need to dig into whether that is true. But if we can find that out And it is true that now that the pandemic is technically, the CDC and other, the WHO has said that it's over. Maybe there is something to that where we have to go back to at least an in-person presence. Even if we did that, I would say I would probably still love the option to Zoom in. I loved making cookies for you guys and coming in and bringing you cookies. But when we start at 6 o'clock, having the ability to just hit Zoom and not transport myself, it's a huge time saver. So I would probably, if I had the option, still continue to Zoom in if that's available for committee members. That being said, I still think we need to dig into how true. Let's explore the veracity of that claim. That's what I'm saying.
Hmm.
Right.
Yep, I agree. And Melissa, you got, I mean, with kids at home and stuff too, that's a much different deal than me, where I kind of want to see people, but it's totally optional, I don't want to have to mandate that you come in. So yeah, good idea. So how do we do that? How do we figure out?
I think I don't know. I guess Brian could ask Jay again, but he's probably going to say you need somebody in the building, right?
Yeah, who else could we ask? Could it be like another municipality or one of our lawyers? It seems like we need to get a second opinion.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Maybe we can, but the second we start asking our lawyer questions, he starts charging us money. And
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
No.
No, that's a good point,
They do
Michael.
that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's gonna end up with me having to be there either way. So at the end of the day, it's no real sweat off my back to be there. It's just more or less if anybody else actually wants to be there, then I'll get the room set up and everything, but and kind of plan accordingly.
Well, if
Yes.
you do that too, Brian, I might come up just, now and again. Maybe some of us would come and still have both options available. Is that legal or, kosher?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we aren't sure of. I mean, maybe it's just a slow transition in, who knows? But I just wanted to throw that out there that this meeting might not be 100% on Zoom forever. Just kind of letting you know.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was really my report out, because I think, did I have anything else? That was the big one. If I remember, I'll fit it into implement the plan. Okay. So
That's the catch-all.
yeah. All right. So now discussion and possible approval of July 12th Sustainability Committee meeting minutes.
Steve would vote, motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve the minutes by Steve and a second by John. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Minutes have passed. Okay, now we are on to discussion possible action of the sustainability plan implementation. We will start off on the update on the school and government benchmarking offer. It appears as if we have been selected to participate in this benchmarking
Yay.
thing.
Yay.
So cool.
Oh,
Yeah. So now let's figure out how we start actually doing it. So where am I at? I am on the wrong thing. So this afternoon, Brian had forwarded to me and Melissa the email saying that we were selected, and it contained all the stuff. You have to go out to an EPA website to start entering your information and such. So this afternoon, I'm just trying to find that stuff. I went out there and started looking at it. Because we have to enter in some historical data of the last, I believe it was 20. We have to enter July 22 to July 24. So we just have to go back and do some back stuff, and it's in this Energy Stars the website. There was a quick start guide. I went out to the thing. It's an EPA website then, I think, for Energy Star. I guess my question is, well, how are we gonna do this? Who's gonna do this?
Yeah, that's a great, I was wondering the same thing.
Sorry, that was a lot of words to get to that because I'm trying to figure out. Well, I'm trying to figure
Now,
out.
okay, yeah, the good thing is that it comes with some money. So it comes with $1,000 to pay for somebody's time to track down that information. So it doesn't have to be, you know, although it could be you, Michael, but we could, you know, find an intern, or I don't know. We could pay somebody or offset the cost for somebody to track that down.
Well, sure. I mean, I have like from July of 22 to July of 23, I probably have about 8 months. I have 8 of those months MG&E bills already from Bobby because I just generally always ask for one every month just to check it out.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I would be willing to go in and just kind of give it a go and see how much I get in there. But like my reading with this, like it was almost like this website wants to know even like not just energy, but water usage and waste usage, which I don't know how we're going to track
Oh,
waste
that's
usage.
interesting. Okay. I didn't
Yeah,
realize
like
that.
well, I didn't either. And so today when I'm out here reading this, I'm like, yeah, this is getting a little bit more like, I don't know, like if we have to enter all that, but I started reading more about it and I was like, okay, this is, yeah, because then, I mean, they might start asking about gross floor area and some of these things. I'm like, how in depth is this going to get?
I wonder, Michael, if the next best step is to contact, you know, there's this person listed in the welcome letter. Let me pull that up.
Yeah, I mean, it's that I think it is that the guy who did the focus on energy
The audit.
assessment?
Joe,
Yeah, I don't.
Is it the same guy?
Joe was the one who came out on site and completed the energy audit, correct?
Right.
Okay, and that's the same person who's our contact for this benchmarking enrollment. Is it Joe
Yeah.
Kotowitz? Kotwitz?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like he can support us in tracking this information. And when I look at the requirements, it's are you looking at, so the first bullet point is record historical monthly utility data in the Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Is that the one, Michael, that you're saying they're asking about water and waste as well in that Energy Star Portfolio Manager?
See,
Or is it a different thing?
no, it's in because like if you in that email, he has this see Energy Star's quick start guide for getting started recording your utility data. I'm reading from the email that we got. So when I click
Yeah.
on the quick start guide, it like talks when you read it, it's like you have to, you know, add a property. Like I think I don't know. Like I think we have to go in and like set up this whole thing in there. And he's saying we have to do it for 3 properties, which that because that benchmark requirement tracker for us, it was included in the email. If you when you download that at the top, it says it's for the water treatment plant, the library, and the public facilities office on Bourbon, I believe. Those are the 3 properties that like we're being tracked across. So I mean, I think this when you log into that EPA website, like I don't think there's anything in there. Like I think you're like building this is because then if you click on that quick start guide, you get in there and it gives that portfolio manager energystar.gov and you go out there and it's like create an account and it's like, you know, does Bobby need to be creating this account? She's the village, or does Brian need to? I'm not the village employee, you know. I mean, we have to create an account in here to start entering the information in.
Hey, Michael, are you guys looking at like you guys have some email we don't see right now? Is that right?
That is correct. And I mean,
Great question.
Okay.
yeah,
That's a very valid
Because
question.
I'm looking at the agenda and I just see a blank focus, like it's like the application for this. But I think we've won, we've applied, and we've gotten
Yep.
this now, and now we're on to the next phase
That's right.
of who does what. And you
well,
guys have
that's the
some guidance on that.
That's right.
inside of what we got from this fellow. It's like, go out here, create an account, add properties, and start entering your information. Like that's like what it reads like.
Okay. But they specify which properties, because the ones you mentioned sound like significant ones.
Yeah, inside that email, he specifically says what 3 we need to enter it for.
Yeah.
Okay.
And those came from the application. Those came from, I think they came from the app. I put them in there based on, I think, the audit that Joe helped us do. So, and we decided not to include the village hall because we're hoping to build a new one, and this is,
Yeah.
it's going to be out of date. So we didn't include that, but those were, you know, they came from discussions from our committee, and then they came from the application. But yes, to be clear, Steve, we won the opportunity. Well, we won the, I guess you call it a grant, or, you know, the program. We gained entry. They're going to give us $1,000 when we meet these requirements, and then there's an additional $500 that we can get if we do meet some other threshold. Like if we save 25%, there's a if we, let's see, if we, upon confirmation of completing the benchmarking requirements, you will be eligible for an additional 25% bonus incentive up to $500. So it'll be available for any projects that we complete, I guess, once we make improvements to the facilities. So small things, but you know, useful for, we could use every dollar we could get for some of these programs. And yes, now it's like, how do we actually get the data entered? And Michael
Right.
was just describing, it sounds like maybe kind of an onerous process.
Well,
Okay.
I think somebody
Thanks
just
for clarifying.
Yes, I think somebody just has. So the question is, which, you know, so Brian, do I ask you or Bobby to go and create this account?
Yeah, you know, I haven't had an opportunity to even think about it since I forwarded you guys the email. So I'm glad we're talking about it right now. But I can make a note to check with Bobby tomorrow and see if this is something that we can establish one point person within, you know, the staff to assist with. I think that the account should be a village employee, although the help can come from anybody, I think, possibly
That's what,
within the committee.
right.
So,
That's what I'm wondering. Could I then log in? You
yeah,
know, 'cause the username can just be like generic, like Cross Plains Energy, you know, or
yeah,
something like that. You know,
yeah. Yeah,
I
let me check on that one tomorrow, and see if I can get an answer, and then I'll communicate that info over to you guys. See how we want to get it at least initially set up.
yeah, because then like I could go, you know, one just a little bit of time in there. I think probably adding the 3 properties and starting to roll on it. Hopefully the site is pretty well easy to do because it kind of goes through here and basically, I mean, it has like the steps like that. How to the quick start guide is like 1, add a property. 2, enter energy, water, and waste and materials data. 3, view results in progress. I mean, it's like this
Okay.
PDF, you know. I mean, it's like this is how you do it.
Yeah.
But I just need the account created before I like start, you know, and go in there and see what I need, and then it's going to be emailing Bobby. I need these MG&E bills. Whether or not we need to even enter in the water and waste data, I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So it sounds like, Brian, you're going to check with Bobby to see like who on staff it should be, but village staff will create the account and then enable Michael to have access to do some of the inputting. Right, Michael?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I can
Cool.
go in there and create the everything, like just follow that quick start guide until can't follow it and have to email Joe or whatever.
Okay. And then once you're in there, if there's anything that you identify as would be helpful for other sustainability committee members to take on, or for, obviously reach out to Joe too, but feel free to spread the load once you can identify what are the actual tasks that we need to do the research on. If it's, if it's too much time that it would take for you to do it, let's talk about how to distribute it. But I really appreciate that you're getting in there to even investigate the platform.
Well, I just went out there because I was like, okay, go out to this website, enter it in, and then I was like, oh, create a new account. Then I was like, oh, they want first, last name, phone, street address. I'm like, I don't think I'm giving them my street address. This needs to be
Right.
village like thing, you know?
Yeah.
Because I don't know, like, what you put on that application. Like, if Bobby was the, village staff contact, or how all that worked, or if Brian was. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it really matters or not,
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think Michael, I think when I talk to Bobby tomorrow, I think she'll be indifferent to it. The only question I'd have about as far as which village staff member helps set it up, I can probably just as easily call you tomorrow and we could just get it set up together. But I just want to verify if we need to have someone with like MG&E account permissions and whatnot. We already have one designated staff member who has that login account, so I might see if they could serve in that capacity or continue to serve in that capacity to help if there's any other involvement.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds great. I don't know exactly how all this hooks together. What is this?
All right, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's trying to, yeah. Okay. Well, that was what was going on with that. Does anybody have any other questions or anything on that?
No, but just celebration. Yay, we got it. And it's going to be helpful. That's so cool. We got a
Yay.
little bit of
Yay.
money for the village to start tracking that, and that's awesome. And it didn't take wasn't a heavy lift for us to do the application. So it's great.
Yeah, okay. All right, so now I'm gonna go on to the update on Village of Cross Plains Energy Assessment and Summary. With regard to that, I sent Jerry an email asking him those questions about uh, the wastewater treatment plant, specifically the three things that were in there that were concerned with them, and stuff about the shop over there on Bourbon. I think the email was like, are any of these things in the wastewater treatment plant like, need to be replaced? Do you know anything about grants? What about the shop? And he never replied to me, so I got nothing back.
Okay.
Yeah, at least not yet. I kind of think, it's in the middle of summer and he's kind of, I think they get kind of busy like when they're doing a lot of road work and et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
So I mean, that isn't the best. I can re-ping him on that, but for some reason I feel it's not really high on the list of priorities.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Just because of doing other things, which that might not be good or bad, or I mean, I don't know. Like I can't force him to reply to me, so
Yeah.
so that's where that went. Maybe I will try to get in touch with them again. So I don't know about that. So that's what I have
Yeah.
there.
Okay. Well, that's a bummer, but we'll keep shuffling on. Thanks
Yeah.
for reaching out.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah. So that was that. It's I don't know. I don't know with his possible pending retirement, if he really is
Mm.
looking to put a whole lot of oompa into that pump works just fine. I'm not gonna
Mhm.
try to replace it in the last 6 months I'm here and bring in a
Mhm.
convoluted control system. No thanks,
Mhm.
might have the case of the retirement.
Senioritis. Yep.
Yeah, senioritis is what I was gonna say.
Yep.
Senioritis might be kicking in a little. So these things, I think he's just probably trying to get done everything he has on his list before he possibly retires, so that he doesn't need to be adding, I don't know, additional things, if you catch my meaning.
When is
Yeah.
Jerry going out?
Oh, nobody really knows for certain, but it could be early next year, maybe. I think
Okay.
possibly. I mean, I don't know.
Why
Right?
are you laughing, John?
Oh, I like the nobody knows for certain kind of comment. It's I was just kind of doing the when I started talking about retiring at work, the all of a sudden everybody wanted to know exactly when.
Mm. Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know. That's just sort of what. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he hasn't spoken to me. This is just what might be happening, and so we will see. I mean, I could send it again and see what happens and whatnot.
Okay.
Okay. I hope I just didn't give away any like secret information, Brian, or anything.
I don't think so. I don't think we're any closer to knowing than before we started talking
Mhm.
about it either. So
Okay. But that was just kind of right. It might be early next year, right? It's just
I have no clue on that one. I've heard rumors. I can't really talk about stuff, but
right.
I don't have any definitive info.
Yeah. So that's just kind of where it is. Okay. So let's move on to progress on sustainability plan. Inside of here, we had spoken last month about the possibility about the solar farm.
Mm.
That being like our number one goal on here. So I did actually reach out to Bill Chang, and he did reply to my emails, which
Unlike some people.
That's so
I
Bill.
didn't mean that rude. I mean, Bill got back to me like within like 15 minutes. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like
So Bill.
instantaneous practically, I mean,
Mhm.
so yeah, and so Brian has up the email that like I sent him like an excerpt from there, basically what happened with Jeff Davis. He came and spoke at the place. So yeah, so then he goes on. Jeff's property is suitable was a backup plan. We wanted to try other properties first since we'd be able to acquire the property and set the lease terms and rates to make the project financially feasible.
Mm.
See, with Jeff's land, he would remain the owner and the price he charges for rent of the land, including improvements to his property to get a good site, will impact the total project cost and eventually the rate to the village. Yeah, in this case, then the village would need to decide cost versus sustainability. Being in control of the land makes more sense since there are other programs out there that can offset the village carbon footprint. The idea was to control the land and control the purchase to fix a favorable outcome for the village. Obviously, if Jeff is willing to sell the land to the village, this changes the narrative. Another option is to identify that access later on. He meant excess land that the village has for such a project. And by excess land, he meant things like at one meeting we were looking at possible places in conservancies or just other land that the village owned that we already controlled. So that was kind of what happened with Jeff's land because he did come and speak that one time. And then I think Bill really started to pursue, he wants to lease it. Let's try to own it.
Mhm.
And we never went back to see the lease option, which I don't know, kind of. I mean, I don't know. Do we want to go back and try to see what his thoughts are on this any longer or not? Because it's it's kind of like if he wants to build a solar farm on his land, then like isn't that his choice? Like how does the
Right.
village like force him to do that, right? Or
Right.
encourage him? I mean, that was the
Mhm.
whole idea of controlling the land and owning the land.
Hmm.
Was there a set aside amount of money that the village had pledged to fund that project with, or anything like that, like past capital improvement plan
Well,
funding, or?
the whole idea was because there were these spreadsheets that were in closed session, which I could have put one in the pack, but it was basically a spreadsheet that basically, if I remember correctly, was like if we bought the land outright and went into capital and I don't know if we put it in a 10-year lease or like a 10-year bond or a 20-year bond, but then because then you're leasing that property back to the solar farm, like if like if MG&E buys that or agrees to maintain it for 30 years, well, they're giving the village X amount of money each month, and that money is being used to offset the cost of the land. So pretty much it was basically a push. And that was like I sort of spoke with Jay to kind of refresh my memory on this a little bit. And he was basically like, we wanted to do it at zero cost to the village. I mean, he was pretty much like, it was going to cost the village anything. He wasn't for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like what the subtext was.
Yeah.
I thought that the original discussions that we had with God knows who it was, I don't even remember anymore, was that if we I mean, because there are utilities building solar farms on leased land
Yeah.
all over Wisconsin, and what they're doing is it's almost like a broker comes in and says, okay, I'm going to find some land for you guys to lease. I'm going to hear utility, you come in, and then they just build the lease cost into the electrical rate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not really sure how, and that's what we were originally talking about. I'm not sure how it kind of took this side detour into the village was going to buy the land, because that was, I don't think, ever our intention.
I think yeah, I mean, it seems like what we want at the end of the day is the village doesn't necessarily want to own the land. I wouldn't think that the village wants to own that land and have that as a potential, I don't know, liability or just one more thing to do maintenance on. But it seems like it almost seems like to me the broker idea is exactly what I was thinking too, John, that it's a matter of us playing matchmaker between a developer, MG&E, and somebody who owns the land, and saying, as the village, we will buy that clean energy from you. We will guarantee you that we will, we need about 1 megawatt is I think what the calculation that we came out with. And we will be a guaranteed buyer of that clean energy, but we need a place to source it. So I agree that it seems like it might have gotten complicated with this idea of needing to own the land, because at the end of the day, the spirit of this endeavor has been, we want to source where the electricity is coming from, and we want it to be clean. And we can do that if we can locate it here in the village and we can point to those solar panels. But I don't really know what the next best step is here.
Well, I
because
don't either,
it's been a while.
Because Bill went out and did a fair amount of searching and asking and reaching out and trying to do exactly like what you said, and there wasn't really a lot of people that wanted to do that. That's where it's just kind of like went nowhere. So that's
Ex-
where
Except for this guy, right? The one on Airport Road.
Jeff said he would. He was interested in doing it. And I don't know. He said his property was suitable. Now, Brian had found a folder that talked about solar energy up like in the village office, but the only piece of property that was in that folder like for the solar farm was the Brunner farm. Like that was the one
Mm-hmm.
that the guy had actually like drawn like on the map, and like it's this big, and this is the alternate, another site that could be used, and this is like where the substation go. Like that's the one that made it like that far along with that consultant guy
Yeah.
was looking at it, and there wasn't anything in there like related to Jeff Davis. There wasn't anything in there related to the land down by Ludden at all. So it was kind of like all those avenues just kind of didn't go anywhere. I mean, I guess we could reach back out to Jeff Davis and be like,
Mm-hmm.
but one, does that have? I don't know. See, I don't know. What I was gonna say is the line by Jeff Davis's house is because Bill always used to kind of talk about it. You need to have three-phase close to it. Now I don't know how big of a solar farm you need to have three-phase, but that line running down Airport Road is just a single phase. There isn't three-phase electricity coming down
Mm-hmm.
Airport Road.
Mm-hmm.
I know that.
Hmm.
Whereas, well, I don't know if by that Brunner farm, well, three-phase runs into that substation at the bottom of Enchanted Valley. I know that. So however far away that was, but I don't know if a three-phase line came into Cross Plains, but it's would be very close right there with that substation. See, and so that's really all I remember, and that's really all I know about the whole thing. But he said that inside of here, he said
He said that it would be a good backup, right?
yeah, I mean, doesn't he say Jeff's property is suitable and was a backup plan? So maybe the three phase
Yeah.
needed. I don't remember how much land he was willing to, like how many
It
acres,
Yeah, I don't remember either, but it seems like it's worth another conversation with him. And I'm also curious, Bill's email, he ends with, if I remember correctly, you only need approximately 15 acres to provide enough energy for the village. Anything beyond that is revenue. I think it's actually smaller. I thought we were looking at more like 3 to 5 acres for 1 megawatt. Um, but I'm curious because he says anything beyond that is revenue. And because we don't have a municipal energy utility, this would be connected in with MG&E. I don't think it's revenue for us. I don't know how MG&E like the cost sharing, but I would imagine there's not actually revenue to the village. Does anybody know what he's referring to there?
I think I don't know. I think I agree with what you're saying, Melissa. The village isn't gonna own the solar farm. MG&E is gonna
Yeah.
have
Okay.
this land, go and put on it, whatever. And you know, the village the village might say like, okay, we need 1 megawatt of this to power village energy needs. And personally, I mean, that's going to be like in the contract or whatever, but MG&E is just going to be dumping this power out on the grid and it's getting
Right.
used by whoever. I mean, it's not
Right.
like
Right.
directly coming for the village. It's just however big they want to build on whatever land we find available, if they want to do it, is what's going to happen. So
Mm-hmm.
um
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just a question that should be directed to MG&E about the proper protocols and steps to consider doing this, to get guidance or recommendations and things as far as this acreage necessary to meet this, and or if we already completed all of those steps.
um this is where inside of that folder that you had, Brian, that solar farm one, he had been reaching out to an individual that he knew that was basically a solar farm developer.
Okay.
And that person then would go around and look at properties and be like, this is a possible place for a solar farm. This isn't. This is how much you could get off of it.
Okay.
And should the village have bought any of those lands, then we would have been entering into a contract with that developer to put a solar farm there. Now, him at the exact same time is probably is to MG&E saying, at the end of the day, when I get this thing built, you're going to take over the lease because he doesn't want to
Right.
run it.
Right.
So then he was going to sell that to MG&E. MG&E was going to buy this already established solar farm with all the panels in and say, thank you very much. We're in charge. We'll do maintenance on it now. And that's how the process worked, the way I understood it.
Same. Yeah, that's how I understood it as well.
Because MG&E doesn't want to be the entity coming to the village for permits. If it was, I mean, because I think Jeff lives in the town of Barry anyway. He doesn't even live in the village, I don't think. But MG&E doesn't want to be the one going to the town meeting asking for this permit, because then all the landowners end up, well, disliking MG&E because it's going
Right.
in. They want to
Yep.
hoist their anger at the developer.
Mm-hmm.
Because then if it fails, MG&E doesn't get a black eye, et cetera, et
Mm-hmm.
cetera.
Yeah, and MG&E doesn't want to spend any time scoping out potential properties. I think they're happy to work with a developer who can do all of that legwork and then just do the interconnection.
Exactly. They just sort
Yeah.
of show up and take over it once it's all built. And who knows, they're probably telling the developer, use these solar panels, they're the ones that we like to use, you know? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
when you're building it, put these there and use this
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And
So it seems to me like maybe the next best step is reaching out to Jeff Davis to see if that's even still an opportunity, and then reaching out to the consultant whose name I'm forgetting right now to see if he would, if that's even, he worked with us because Bill knew him, and I don't
right.
know, I don't know if it was like how that relationship was worked out, because he gave us pro bono. We didn't pay a bill for the work that he was doing.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that would work, but it would be worth another conversation with him. And I guess the third thing is, this is sort of an iterative process, because part of it is we don't want to build to what we're currently using, because part of what we're doing right now on energy efficiency is trying to figure out how can we get our bill as low as possible so that we're not, overbuilding. So there's sort of an iterative process here, that I think we'll have those energy efficiency. Hopefully we'll make some of those upgrades sooner rather than later, and the solar farm would be built to a smaller requirement, but just naming that that's also part of the process too.
Right. So if we're looking to pursue this and go down with the possible construction of this, then we have to contact Jeff Davis then somehow.
Yeah, do we have, I thought on our last call we said there was somebody said that we had contact information for him. Did I dream that though?
It's possible. I don't think I do. I don't know if I've ever sent him. I think Bill was the one contacting him all the time. Well, I think his wife used to be the police clerk, though. That sort of, but she just retired.
Oh, that's right. Lisa, I think it was, right?
I
Yeah,
believe so.
we should have access somewhere.
He came as public comment a few years ago. I mean, that's how we found out about him. So
I
maybe
remember
we've
that.
got his contact. Yeah, maybe we have his contact information. I mean, I don't know. You'd have
Is
to go
it-
almost month by month to
Is it a
find that
simple,
though.
simple question of just, hey, are you still interested? I mean,
Well,
would this
that's
even be a
Yeah.
possibility?
that's exactly all it is.
Mhm.
It's like, are you interested in? Or yeah, exactly. That's all it is. A long time
Yeah.
ago, we talked about a solar farm. Are you still interested in placing one at your property, et cetera, et cetera. And then Yeah, that's all it would have to be. I don't think I have his email. These are all, I wonder. I don't know if I do or not. Do you think you have his email, Brian?
I'm sure I can find it somewhere, or I could have Becky or one of the staff or run downstairs and get Lisa's number and place a call or whatever. We'll get it.
Okay. That sounds great. So then who wants to send the email once we get the email? Do you want me to do that? Do you want to do that, Brian? Who wants to do it?
I can send it to him or just engage Lisa and pose the question when I get the number.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a very simple thing. A long time ago, you came to a meeting. Do you still have any desire or, want that? Who knows? The whole thing though now is that this is even a few years later on. We contacted the developer. The developer might be like, MG&E isn't looking on buying anything that's smaller than 20 acres. Boom,
Yeah.
I mean, things like that
Yeah,
could definitely
who
be
knows?
going on where they're like, nope, we're just doing bigger projects now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, never know. He was plan B before. We may as well at least just vet it, right? It's
Yeah.
worthwhile. That's an email and a call. So all the rules may have, or his interest may have changed too. So
Definitely. I still say that the Sundance development's hitting a lot of roadblocks right up there on top of Brewery. There are 100 acres of land that is primed to put a solar farm on.
Wow.
That's where it goes.
I'm
You
still
could
in
build-
favor of that too.
you
how
could
do
build
I
a-
learn about what's going on up there? Is that public knowledge? I'm very just curious about how that development is going or not going, or
Well, anything public is now going to be in the plan commission's hands. I think they're trying to figure out if they want private wells up there or not. And that's kind of the last I read publicly. Is that correct, Brian?
Yep. Ironically, just spoke with Keo Ladopoulos today about it a little bit more, but I'm optimistic that that topic might come back to the Plan Commission agenda maybe as early as the next meeting in September. So stay tuned. But that general conversation, Michael, is correct, was centered around whether or not the village wanted to make exceptions for new subdivisions to allow homes on private wells to be a part of the village.
So that's just kind of where that is. Because they had a preliminary plat approved many years ago, and it kept getting extensions, but then it finally, they stopped coming for renewal, and that, again, has expired. So if they were going to start all over again, it would have to be a new preliminary plat and the whole process again.
is this the same developer as the owner of Glacier's Edge?
It's his son now, right, Brian?
Correct.
Not laughing. Not laughing.
Yeah.
Well,
You're
I think it
definitely
is.
laughing.
I just recognize that name. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the son of the individual who did
Glaciers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to get an email off to Jeff Davis, see what's going on there. And then possibly contact that other developer fella, and who knows what's going to happen with that. Okay, so do we have any other discussions, concerns about plan implementation? Keep throwing that purchasing policy in the packet, but I don't know if anybody reads it or not. I don't even know if I read it this last time, to be honest with you. I think I read it a few months ago. It just keeps getting thrown in there. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. Same thing with the light ordinance. Okay. Anything else anybody has?
I think the purchasing policy somehow, I mean, I understand why it's showing up here, because, we're looking for a sustainable purchasing policy. But I also find it interesting that on the finance committee, we're talking about the purchasing policy.
Well, yeah.
And the approvals and all of that stuff. And I'm actually wondering, since it's sitting in multiple committees right now and both are talking about purchasing policies, if either one of them is actually the right place to be. Or should both of them put together a policy together? I mean, like, is there such a thing as a, special event meeting with sustainability and finance just to hash out the purchasing policy?
Yeah, that could happen. I mean, we just have to, I mean, it's possible. I mean, the finance one, looking at that, those, it just kind of gave dollar amounts, and if it's in the budget, yay, nay, you can get it. And if it's not, you need three bids to buy something, or if it's not, but then now you, like, I don't know,
But see, if we go through and we do all that work on finance and we create a policy, and the board then does whatever the board does and votes on it and says, hey, great purchasing policy. And then sustainability comes in 1 month later and says, oh, by the way, here's the purchasing policy for that sustainability is proposing. They're going to look at it. I would, if I were on the board, and say, hey, we just voted on a purchasing policy, and now you're bringing us another purchasing policy.
Well, Bill, I understand that, and that's where, it's whether or not we want to continue with this or whether or not we don't is basically what we have to figure out. I mean, I think, didn't we discuss once about this, and it was just like, how would we hold, I mean, it's easy to hold a staff member to be like, oh, go get the 3 lowest bids, but how do you hold them to make sure that they're sweatshop free what they're buying? I mean, or not being produced with child labor, or it was made using renewable energy. I mean, that's why some of this is just like, it's impossible to enforce. That's almost like,
it is. And I think that we're learning from when we developed the sustainability plan and we set the 25 priorities. I think a couple years now we're learning some things about, like, is this juice worth the squeeze? And I think for some of these things, it might not be. Like the purchasing policy, there's another one that Andy and I tried, and we just kept hitting our heads against the wall on this, like, kind of like flow chart or checklist, which may, for like how to make sustainability decisions. And I think there are a couple things that they're red right now, but I think we might just need to pull them off. Like if we were to do an updated version of our sustainability plan, I'd argue that some of these things upon exploration just don't make sense for a village our size with the staff capacity that we've got, and the work that it would take. So kind of some of these just the juice isn't worth the squeeze. So I'd say this purchasing policy is probably up there with that.
I mean, especially since I think people are thinking about sustainability when they're even without a policy, they're thinking about it. Hearing the police chief say, well, maybe electric vehicles are okay now. Listening to Jay and when he's talking about the new village hall, and he's saying things like, I'm still not exactly sure what the definition is, but LEED compliant. Those are sustainability based decisions that are being made even without a policy.
Well, right. Like with regard to the police chief, I think it's just after so many years, the hybrid vehicles now are more reliable. So just with the whole entire general societal push towards, you know, more of a hybrid vehicle or things more sustainable, they're just going to start to happen organically. You don't need
Yes.
a policy for it to happen. Whereas I know 3 years ago, he was like, nope, them hybrid vehicles have a lot of problems. I don't want to touch them. Now those decisions are starting to become more organic.
Yeah.
So that's where the purchasing policy difficult to enforce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a lot of work to create it. And then how useful, in addition to difficult to enforce, how useful will it be?
Yeah, and with time, I mean, as a staff member, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, let me tell you one thing, like we aren't even sure staff members are getting 3 bids for things that they buy. I mean, are they going to really be looking for switch shop
That's
free
true.
products?
Right.
I
That's
mean,
true.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, I mean, we're just kind of like, we aren't even sure they're like doing this really kind of, you know, not really intense searching for things. So, you know, I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
it might be tough to convince them to make sure that this copper wire isn't poisoning, you know, coral reefs in Australia or something. You know, I mean,
Yeah. Right. Right.
so
Don't make me reprimand them, Michael, if they are either, please.
this copper wire came from Indonesia. So
Okay, so what does that mean then? Could we at least strike it from our future agendas and say, you know, I don't, does it actually, is it in our sustainability plan?
yeah, that's why I have that's
Is
why
it
this
number 24, the sustainability checklist? No, that's the one that Andy and I were working on.
yeah. Yeah, that was a no, there was a purchasing thing. That's why at one time I went out and did a search and found that Middleton one. I'm sure it's in here. I would have just like made it up. I don't know where it is.
I like that idea though, Melissa, when you mentioned, you know, if we have vetted these things or an item fully, it's like, this just doesn't work for us. It was a great idea. It doesn't work. We're going to move on, you know, to other things. How do we indicate that in our plan that it's, you know, do we do a version 2 without it in there, or do we give it a different color or something? I mean, I don't want to like, you know, rig the plan to show like, oh, we're only showing things that we're, you know, achieving, because that's
Right.
realistic, right? We have big ideas. We're going to try some stuff, and a lot of it ain't going to work.
Yeah.
And
Right. That's
and
the
it would be
whole,
actually,
yeah.
it'd be nice to have that historic record. Okay, well, why didn't that one work? Well, too much staff time, too expensive, not enough information, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
This was it. It was well, I don't know. It was energy audit resolution approved, but prioritize energy efficiency and conservation in all new municipal purchases. Is that a
Oh, so that's where it
purchase?
came from.
And you know, our energy audit resolution approved is what we put it on. It's number 17, but that was kind of that sort of read to me like purchasing policy, right? So, and I think that I was out bouncing around the Middleton Sustainability Committee and saw that they had that out there. And I actually think that theirs got approved by their council. I was like, how are they going to implement this? So John, on here, did you do any research for the composting, John?
I did not. I did not.
Okay.
I looked up a couple different ones and saw what they were doing. UW Madison has one. It's in its infancy. They tried one a few years back. They took a step away from it and they're trying to implement it again. But it is strictly a dining hall related program in its infancy right now. Iowa State does it, they do it on a campus wide, but theirs works because they have thousands of acres of research farms around that facility, as around Ames, and they are taking all of the not necessary animal waste, but the bedding material and stuff like that, and putting it into it. So it doesn't relate to us. You know, they're essentially composting at a farm level. And then they do the you know, dining hall stuff as well. But if you read into it, 80% of their compostable material is coming from their research farms. So, and then I did try to look and find a city anywhere in Wisconsin doing it, and I haven't found one yet.
Yeah, I haven't heard of one.
Okay.
And I feel like I would have heard of it, but the only one that I've heard of is Madison, at least did a pilot. And I don't know if I don't know what they determined or if they're still doing it. But the vague memory that I had is that they discontinued it. That they did the pilot and then and I could be wrong about this, but that they did the pilot and then just determined it wasn't cost effective.
Right.
It from what I could gather, it looks expensive. You know, that they have covered facilities where they truck all this stuff in, and then they've got automated machines that are turning it, and then they, you know, and it's almost a conveyor belt as it's going through. So it goes in at one end is raw stuff, and it comes out the other end it's as composted soil. And it's like, okay, that's a university spending a crap ton of money.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we
probably not going to do that here.
Right, we don't even, yeah.
We could start by finding a permanent site to just put our compost. Like at this point, that would be a good first step.
Is ours not permanent?
No, it's leased land right now. And I think they are trying to figure out, or Jerry's job's to figure out where we could possibly put it.
Do the people
like
where
I'm just talking brush and, you know, grass clippings, things like that for right now.
Right.
Do the people where we take it now, are they still fine with us taking it there, Brian?
You know, I think Jay had asked Jerry about this like a staff meeting or two ago. I don't remember the answer on that one. I think the goal was to try to figure out a place that we could just start putting this on village owned land instead of leasing from somebody.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think he's had time to look at that either.
Right. That's just buying a place and being able to turn it ourselves and et cetera, and all that.
Yeah. I think that's where we were kind of talking about, like, hey, the quarry would be a good, you know, if that came up.
Yeah. Oh, I gotcha. Hey, Melissa, that one you were talking about, developing the process system for how sustainability should be considered in decisions. I think that's priority 6. That's the one we gave the red one to last time. Is that what you were talking about?
Oh, I thought it might have been the 24. No, it probably is 6. Yeah, that's the one that, yep, that's the one that you're right. It is 6. That's the one Andy and I tried. But Brian, related 24.
Yeah, just saying to Brian, if you clicked on and at the top of the agenda, there's a link in there that's the plan link. You go way to the top of this page. And you pull down, it's like right there in the middle of the page. Yeah. That was like we gave the red to the farm. If you just pull down a little bit. Sorry to interrupt, Melissa.
That's okay. Yeah, we I moved away from the Zoom because I was looking at the spreadsheet, but yeah, looks like you've got it, Brian. Yeah, so I am thinking, Steve, you asked a question about how do we indicate when we've just hit sort of a dead end, and we've determined that even though we established this as a priority, it's not going to work for the village. I think we might want to use black. We could fill that square with black, and then we could have some kind of status update that says, you know, we determined that this just wasn't feasible for the village at this time. And then I would love to, so we passed this, was it November of 2021, right? So we're coming up on 2 years. Is that right?
I think so.
I
Yeah.
think it'd be really good for us to do 2 things. One is to go through all of these and determine which ones we think actually have forward momentum and which ones have we hit a dead end with, because I actually think we've explored many of these, but we haven't felt like some of them have legs, and I think we just need to make a final determination. And then I think we should give an update to the village, and I think we should explore updating the plan and either doing, you know, updating it every 2 to 3 years, or just, you know, either getting on a cycle, but at least coming back to doing a 2.0 with, like, now that we've had this experience, like, fresh eyes.
I think it's a great idea. Definitely need to, you know, revisit it so that we're staying fresh and showing that we're active. And I mean, because we've done a lot, and we've ruled out a lot too. And I think you're right. I think the village, if they heard that, would be yeah, I think they would appreciate that, because it's like, okay, these guys just aren't like forging ahead on, you know, these blue sky dreams or whatever. They're like, they've looked at them, they've evaluated them, made some decisions, and, you know, ruled some of them out. And, you know, and maybe we've got new ones yet to add. So let's make this thing, keep it a living document and a living plan. So I think that's a great idea. Maybe we should devote, I mean, most of next meeting to that.
To just going through and just figuring out how do we code it and which ones have legs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea.
And what kind of message that we need to do to report off to the boards. I think they would appreciate hearing, like, what are those people doing over there in sustainability, like on a big picture, because they hear us proposals and all that. But if we could give them okay, here's kind of where we're headed. We reviewed the plan, and what's our process for like keeping this fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well,
could that be, Michael, could that be the focus of our September meeting, is that we really tick through, we've done some of these, but really figure out which of these that we haven't coded for color, what has legs, what do we need to chase down, and then try to do that between now and say November. It would be great on our 2nd anniversary of the plan to report back to the board. So maybe November, December.
yeah, I think that would be fun. I mean, we just need to, yeah, we could definitely do that, or just even, yeah, think about them. I mean, yeah, we could. I don't think it's going to take that long, to be honest with you. I mean, I sort of just have ideas. I mean, if nobody's like came in here and tried to bite anything off, then does it have legs? I mean, does anybody want to look at, you know, design, execute a transit plan to connect cross plains with surrounding communities via bus shuttle service? You know?
Right.
Is that, you know, I mean.
Yeah. Right. And I think, yeah, some of these were not necessarily pie in the sky, but it's really hard to know how to move on these things. Like who do we even talk to? What are the right, you know, avenues for moving on things like this?
Yeah, I don't know. That's where a lot of the ones that weren't approached, I don't know if we really started to just fire things out. And I mean, looking at that,
So how about
Mm.
this? Okay, how about this? On the ones for next month, on the ones that we don't have any progress on, one thing that's helpful when I'm approaching a big gnarly problem is to just start listing the questions that we have. And we don't even have to have it even try to answer them. Just start listing off the questions. But then once we even figure out what the questions are, we might be able to figure out who the people are who we can ask those questions. And then from there, pursue some answers. So if we can do that in September, between then and November, we might have a better sense of whether we can actually make any progress on some of these. But I think some of them just require us getting together and even thinking through what do we even need to know before we can make progress on them.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
I like the idea.
Yeah, it's just a matter of putting in some of the work is what it is. I mean, I guess we just need to, the whole thing is that on any of these topics that we're looking at, somebody just has to say, I'm going to just go out and do it and see what I can do. And I'm just going to speak for, if people aren't wanting to do that, then they're all either just going to stay blank or, yellow is basically what it is. I mean, I won't lie. The light ordinance, I kind of took a total back seat on. I mean, it's mostly written, and I haven't been being distracted with other things, but I mean, that's like 95% done. It's just a matter of seeing how well it flies through different committees or what have you. So yeah, I mean, I will work on that this next month and see what I can do with that. I mean, I don't know. Like so you read something here, you go encourage new homes to meet Energy Star home standards. What is that? How do you do that? I mean, I just don't know.
Yeah. Well, here's my recommendation. On our September call, let's take items. I'm looking at items 10 through 15, and let's spend a few minutes on each one, just generating the questions that we have and see where that takes us. We may find after those conversations that it's too intractable, but we might get to some questions that it's like, oh, okay, this unlocked an idea of how we can move this forward. So let's try to take numbers 10 through, I don't know, I would say limit it to honestly like 5. But let's just take a handful and see how far we get.
Okay.
I think it's a great idea.
Agreed.
Okay.
All right. So where am I at? Right. So does anybody, I'm trying to find the agenda. Does anybody have any future agenda items or anything that you want to talk about?
I think we just talked about it.
Okay. Making sure there wasn't anything else.
I'm curious about, so we have a committee member who hasn't been participating, and I'm wondering whether, I don't know if it's an agenda item, but I do know that without him participating, Kevin was swapped out for him. And if we don't have him, it starts to get us into quorum questions. What's the process for people who don't show up to committees that they're on? Like, is there any kind of attendance policy? Are we just stuck with potentially not having somebody show up and then we have quorum problems? Does anybody know?
For like the next 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
There might be something in the ordinance that talks about attendance of members, and if they miss so many that they might be replaced. I might have read something like that once, but I don't know off the top of my head. After, I was going to see if he was going to show up at this meeting, because Brian and I kind of spoke about this a little bit. I mean, he says that he gets the emails like for the notification of this meeting, that email went out on Monday. So it's been fairly consistent that you know, unless he never checks his email, that he would be like,
Yeah.
oh, I am on this committee and it's always the second Tuesday and I generally get this email about here.
Yeah.
That he is, I don't know if he's not getting them, if he is getting them, but because he didn't attend tonight, either myself or Brian, I mean, I could do it. I was just gonna write him a specific email, like from me to him, like, you know, Mr. Linus, are you still wanting to participate on the sustainability committee? You've not attended the last 3 meetings. I'm just checking to see what's going on. And it was just gonna be something
Okay.
like
Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
Good.
because I guess, I mean, I would like, you know, participation from folks who are interested. If it was just a, you know, hey, maybe Jay asked me to do this or whatever kind of arrangement, and he's not that interested in it, that's cool too. But maybe we can, maybe, you know, we can offer it out to someone who's,
Right.
you know, actually interested in that. 'Cause, I
Right.
mean, we do need some, you know, we need some energy behind this, you know.
Yep.
I'm still thinking about the woman, I can't remember her name, who came to our
Jenny.
open house. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like, gosh, talk about somebody who's passionate and bringing ideas and willing to work and take on stuff. That's
Yep.
kind of the, you know, the partnership I would like to have.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking too, Steve.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, no pressure, you know, Mr. Linus, if it's not of interest to you or it's only lukewarm, but, you know, maybe hand the baton off to someone who, you know, really wants to make a difference in this line of work. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for doing that, Michael.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's going to be a very simple email.
Okay.
Going to be, do you still want to, are you still wanting to be a member of this committee? Please let me know soon or something, you know?
Yeah. And you know, transmit the the idea that, you know, not just interest, but also attending. Like you gotta
Right.
you gotta be showing up, my friend.
Well, that's what I meant. That's what I
Yeah.
mean. Do you yeah, I don't yeah, okay. Attending meetings is
Active participation,
Active participation. There you go. That's
okay,
good
that would
language.
engagement and activities and duties therein. And yeah.
Yeah. That's good phrasing.
active participation. So would he know that that means attending meetings, or do I need to explicitly say attending meetings?
It does not hurt to put that in parentheses, Michael.
You're right.
It really doesn't.
Attending in capital
Attend
letters.
the
Attend
meetings.
meetings. Jeez.
Well, and there's also the next level of that, but beyond logging in.
Right. Yeah. Like the work between the meetings that I've
well,
often,
there's that, and yeah.
Yeah, I've heard from a couple people about how the sustainability committee is sort of a workhorse and how, you know, how appreciated it is. So I want to make sure that we keep up our you know, our good standing and our good name of being a committee that works hard and works well together.
Definitely.
Totally agree.
Guys, I have next month the joint review board meetings scheduled at the exact same start time as the sustainability meeting. That meeting traditionally hasn't gone much over like 10 minutes in length.
Wow.
So I was just gonna see if it might be at all possible to just push the start time back to 6:15. But I mean, if it's done beforehand, I will probably start next month with the meeting, or myself being in person at Village Hall for it. So as soon as that other meeting's done, I'll officially just switch over my laptop. And so, I mean, everyone can come on, you know, around the same time as normal, or, you know, minutes before or whatever. I should be there shortly thereafter. Just wanted to let you guys know it might be a little delayed.
Okay.
I am totally good to push it back to officially or formally next month, if that gives you a little more breathing room, Brian.
Yeah.
Do you want to say 6:15 or 6:30 even?
No, I would just say 6:15. I mean,
Okay.
if you wait and I'm not online, just know I'll be there shortly. The meeting has not taken much time at all in the past two that I've been a part of it. So I don't anticipate this one being any different, but I just don't want you to not think I remembered to log in or whatever else. So
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
Sounds
so
good.
we're gonna move the meeting next month to a start time of 6:15 rather than 6. Is that fine with everyone?
Sounds good to me.
Good with
Yep.
me.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. All right, if nobody has anything else, I'm gonna call for adjournment.
I move adjournment.
Steve will
Okay.
second.
Okay, motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. We are adjourned.
Thanks,
you all.
everyone. Have a good
Everyone.
Good
night.
night.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Brian, can I talk